fulfilling and learning experience for 2023. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Prasoon Nigam, CTO at Stratbeans. Giving a brief introduction for Mr. Prasoon, he holds more than 17 plus years of experience in the industry and has worked in complex fields like chip design, processor stimulation, and compiler optimizations. Prior to Stratbeans, Prasoon has worked at Synopsys, leading the research and development unit in sync with Intel Japan for over 8 years. He has also built a novel image-based search engine that earned an award by TCS. His innovative solution using a broad range of technology like machine learning, expert systems, and decision support systems have helped in solving client problems ranging from highly technical to business critical. With this, please welcome Mr. Prasoon with a huge round of applause.
Hello. Hi. Thanks a lot for boosting my ego. I also forgot that I have done these kind of things. So I am Prasoon, and and I am CTO for Stratbeans. We are a learning solutions company based out of East Coast, and we also have presence in India. Now, let's see, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about something about 2023 from L&D perspective. And it's my duty to make it useful and interesting for you. So I hope I do a good job there. Let's start with a mind experiment. And allow me a time machine, Now I take this time machine and I move the knob towards year 2000, where Mr. Rao was talking about those CD-ROM days. And if I were to ask you, that, what, I want to make a documentary, a very nice documentary, but I'm low on budget. So what should I do? Remember, this is year 2000, 1998. So very surely you will advise me that, Prasoon, if you want to do that and you're on low budget, go to the experts, go to Mumbai and hire a script writer, get a cheap studio, you don't have budgets, and get your things done. And that's the only way. So it's a mind experiment. My job is to trick you. So I said, is this the only way? So you say yes, because it's very true in 1998, 2000, and even a little further to that. But then I trick you up and I show you this. And then I ask you a question, Let me call you Tony for convenience, because it's gender neutral also, so it's good. So I asked Tony, that is you, that look here, look at these guys, These are known as influencers and they create a lot of nice reels, TikToks. And you are putting me to a studio with those experts and everything. They're not experts, but they do a profound job of creating nice, entertaining content. They're doing an awesome job of even creating educational and leadership content. How is it happening? What was wrong there? So of course, you will come and combat it back. You will tell me that Prasoon, technology costs have come down. It's easy to buy those devices, do things. I would say close, but not too true. And I'll still trump you. I'll take you to year 2010, time machine, flip back to 2010. And let me remind you, 2010 was YouTube era, where still you had mobile phones. So how would you do? You'll pick up a mobile phone, record something, or a camcorder if you're fancy, and you will plug it into your laptop, pull up a software which edits your things, and then, after that you upload. So I'll ask you, in 2010 also that thing was there, that technology convergence. What exactly happened around 2015 and 16? Why there was a hockey stick curve suddenly and people became this whole content influencer business, this influencer business started, and it started actually invading the entire entertainment industry. So to my point there will be that the basic phenomena that has happened in 2016 is very different, because suddenly there was a convergence, but on this device, with one click you can record, you can edit reasonably well, and then you can distribute then and there, which was not there in 2010. And the word seamless is very important. So today we have this device enabling content creator, because this device has just reached the right kind of technical convergence. So point being, why are we talking and what is the context from L&D? Now before I go there, I'll talk about biases. In behavioral sciences, it is showed that biases are very strong and they stay with our business and personal lives. And not only at individual level, also at a group level. And what they do to you is that unless until there's a revolutionary something happens, those biases are not broken down. One of the big biases that got broken down was, only experts can do it. OECD, sounds like OCD, but OECD, which simply means that it was so assumed that entertainment industry has to do it to bring in expert, but those things crumbled. And it is not that it totally died off, just that it created a space for other peoples to come in. It got democratized. Now let me go ahead and make a case here. The problem is that our L&D industry in that analogy is still sitting in that 2010 era, pretty good YouTube kind of era, where you have to do a lot of work to really do certain things. But it will take 6 years if you have to really reach 2016, and we don't have time. So my talk and the idea is about how can we accelerate it? What are those hidden assumptions that we are not seeing, or maybe some of you are seeing? And those need to be really sorted out quickly for a bigger effects. So so time machine goes back to now, the time machine business is over. Now let me take you and try and walk you through some of the assumptions, some of the biases that we see, and how, just like smartphone is the main catalyst, main hero, so to say, because if those convergences were not there, this kind of enablement was not possible. So we really have to look at it from a very different lens. So talking about lens, maybe time to wear my specs here. And let me look at the 4 blocks. And in my next 10 minutes or so that I have with you, I'll try and convey some of my thoughts to you. Now let's look at some of the biases deeply around content authoring. Okay, so now one of the biases is that when you look at the social media influencers, you call them influencers. But even within your setup, all the subject matter experts and all the people who know certain area of technology very well or business very well, they're also to be seen as knowledge influencers. They can also pick up a mobile phone and record a content which may not be entertainment oriented, but it could be very specific to their learning context that they are in. They can create a good content. Now the whole idea is that they should be platforms. We should be able to make it easy. Then only that 2016 effect will happen on us. There should be one platform that takes care of doing it very seamlessly for you. This one is controversial, but it is true that cost of content creation should be near zero, if not exactly zero. It should be very less. For example, in case of social media, people are able to create content not at a cost of Bollywood kind of a cost, much lower cost. Of course, there's a cost, but the challenge, the assumption that we need to challenge is that why the content has to always come from a vendor outside. It has to be done by a vendor. If it can be done internally, part of it, if not all. So now here are the things. If you have to really break that bias, firstly, Pareto principle will be in your favor. Many a times, because of the no-code technology. So no-code is the fancier way of drag and drop. You don't need to do you really don't need to know a tool, a content authoring tool. You can simply drag and drop things and your content is created. That is very enabling. It is almost like how you create a reel on Instagram, right? If the entry barrier is less, then the content can be created by anyone who knows an area. Okay, it may not be as profound as how an ID would do, but same analogy goes with Bollywood versus the content influencers. So I'm just giving a snippet of it. For example, what you see in center here is an example of a no-code drag and drop based tool through which anybody can create a content very quickly. Another thing that is there, which is very arcane and old, that MCQs, which have been maybe developed in 700 AD, they're still being used. Nothing wrong with them, more power to them. But the problem is that, like the previous speaker talked about, many a times people are not leveraging the power of, let's say, video recording. So if I have an assessment, imagine, where I ask you, okay, tell me about your, what are your top 5 skills? And this person has to speak and record the whole answer, and then I can evaluate this person on various traits. That is also something we should do. It should not be all MCQs. And it is also happening. It is happening. I'm not saying this is a new thing, but there has to be a convergent platform which provides you. It should be the LMS which should integrate all these things in it for creating that right amount of convergence. Now let me move over to the next part of the story around content. Content is always seen as a baked cake. That's the word I've heard from a client also. The content, the e-learning or the SCOM, as you would know it, is like once it is delivered to you, there's nothing you can do much about it. And that's one big assumption that needs to be challenged. Most of the content that comes to you on your LMS, you are an LMS administrator, you are in L&D in certain capacity, you see that content cannot be changed, and that has to be challenged because there's a value attached to it. So I'll come to this slide, but another assumption is that contents are almost like human beings. Once you create them, after a while they start losing their relevance, they start getting old, you need to update them. So there is a basic need to update them. At the same time, just like human beings, content also behave in the same way. If you have very fatter content, very bulky content, it will gonna have health effects. For example, these days it's pretty fancy. You get this whole, I have one client who is in the automobile industry. They got this content created by a good firm, and they put this whole 3D modeling and everything. And it was around 1 gig or 800 MB. It's pathetic, it's obnoxious, because if you give that 800 MB to thousands, 10,000s of people, you're wasting a lot of, you're wasting a lot of cloud money that you have, cloud cost and bandwidth cost. Also, you have buffering issues. So there are tools available in content engineering where you can pull this content in, and it can give you the, just like for a human being, you get a blood report, you get your own report of how your content is. For example, this content is very video heavy. You can go ahead and press a button and compress it. The quality will be reasonably good. It's not going to be bad. So it's always good to be fitter and leaner, because then you have secondary effects. When you give it to your sales team, let's say distribute this content over LMS, and he's accessing from a village or a tier 2 city, you will not have bandwidth issues and everything will work fine. Now, so other thing is that you can do content maintenance. No more it is true that your content that comes to your system, you cannot modify. You have tools and technology in content engineering, wherein you can take a content and you can imagine there is a slide of board of director which is no more compliant. One of the guys is left. You don't have to really go back to the vendor for that one slide change. It will be costly as well as it will take time. So, to a certain capacity, you can use content engineering techniques to really take your existing e-learning and modify them. Only disclaimer is that there is upper limit to it. You cannot just modify everything, but you can do reasonably well. And one more very interesting thing you can do with your content is that you can also augment it. So this tool, these content engineering tools, they allow you to take your content and you can pick up a particular slide. Look at this example. This is one of the slides in their legacy content, the legacy e-learning that they had for a number of years. And they were able to pull it out using one press of button and embed a AR tag on top of it. And suddenly this legacy content that you have is now AR enabled. So you are taking this old, crumbled content and you are giving it a good spa, and now it is more modern. And again, this is not in a very general sense, but these are some of the ideas that people are using to really take care of their content and not just consider it to be a baked cake. How much time do I have? 5 minutes? Okay, good. All right, so the last part, which is quite well known to all of you and is very close to skilling, this whole thing about competency. Now, like I said, there are biases that you have to be aware of, or some kind of ironies, if you will. For example, I meet you and I connect with you on LinkedIn. My entire outside world is well connected. I know, for example, you are agile coach, you are very good in Spanish, and I know everybody on LinkedIn outside. But isn't it amazing that within your company, you may not be, there's no easy for you to know what is the competency. There's no internal LinkedIn in a certain way of thinking. Think about it for a moment. There is a gap. We don't see it because of those behavioral science effects. You don't see things which are around you too often. But imagine that gap is filled somehow using a same centralized system like this one, for the want of word, the content engineering LMS, which allows you in real time to put all the competencies, and then using those competencies, you cross-train people. Because it's very cliche to say, but true, that hiring is a difficult problem. So it is better to work with the grass under your own shoes. So there are people who come from, let's say, Java technologies. They get trained on, they may want to actually cross-skill to data sciences. So if your system has provisions that the content has been created for different stages of competency, so one can choose their own learning paths, and you can actually go ahead and start creating a lot of skill set within. And it is awesome because the guy will feel that there's a lot of engagement happening and he's also getting skilled up. People are doing it, but they're not focusing there. too much because things are distributed and pretty difficult to manage. And then from a company perspective, you have this whole direction you can give. If you know your competency and you want to be a company which wants to be, let's say, in data sciences, then you can see those dashboards and decide, okay, which side should I move my competency? Where should I cross-train people? Now, the TLDR part of it, summarizing what I wanted to convey to you, we have a possibility of a revolution which can go slow or can go fast. If we wanted to go fast, then we will have to use some kind of a right amount of convergence. So content engineering LMS as a concept is that it brings in, LMS is no more just a dissemination of knowledge system. It is also expands its boundary and also takes care of creation of content at very low cost, almost zero cost, and you can modify content and then you can enable internal experts, and that will create a hockey stick that we all are looking for, hopefully, because there is an analogy there and it can be transposed. And in terms of summarizing, content engineering LMS is a concept wherein you bring in content authoring, content engineering, and your regular LMS things into one setup such that this whole process goes on a blitz scale, it goes really fast. So that's so much from my side, and thanks a lot for patiently listening to it. I hope I may have passed some kind of insights. And we have put a booth here. You can surely meet us. My friend 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝗁 and 𝗃𝗏 are also there, and we can continue some of these very interesting discussion. And have a very good afternoon, guys. Thank you.